Oh my goodness. Okay, we're doing this. My name is Anna, and this is my first YouTube video in nearly 10 years. I want to start by saying I'm filming this on my phone, no mic, so I'm sure the quality isn't amazing, especially the sound quality, but this is what we're working with for now. We'll see what the future holds. I also have my very chatty cat right here. This is Moo Cow, and she will most likely be making some appearances throughout this video. I can almost guarantee it, whether they're auditory or visually. But anyway, I thought a great way to get back into making YouTube videos would be to do the Booktube newbie tag. I'm not a big tag person, but I thought this is very structured, very low stakes, and allows me to introduce myself to you. So I have all of the questions written down in this little notebook here, and let's just get into it. Question number 1 is, why did I start or restart this YouTube channel? So there are a couple reasons. Mainly why anyone starts a booktube channel is, I love reading, I love books, and I don't have a lot of people in my personal life that I can talk to about the books I'm reading, and I really appreciate the sense of community within like the booktube space. I think another big reason is I used to post on TikTok quite a bit back from like 2020 to 2023, and I will get into that a little bit in this video, but I had a very love-hate relationship with TikTok. But something that I have really been missing is talking about books and movies to people. Like, that was my favorite thing about TikTok. That was my favorite kinds of videos to post, and there was something really rewarding about recommending a book or a movie to someone, or not to someone, but recommending a movie or a book in a video, and then having people tell me that they went and watched that movie or read that book and had their own experience with it. And I miss, just moments like that, connecting with people in that way and having an outlet to really dive deep into my thoughts and feelings on the media that I'm already consuming. Like, I've been off TikTok since 2023, and like, I still post on Letterboxd. I have a Fable, but there's just something different about a written review versus coming on camera and talking about it. I think there's a level of maybe like emotional inflection, or it's just different, it's a different medium. So I'm excited to have hopefully another space to do that again, because that's something that I've really been missing and craving the past few months especially. Question 2 is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? So obviously I read these questions before I sat down to film this video, and this is the one that I think I had the hardest time in my head coming up with an answer for, because I'm like, I don't know, I'm just me. But I think, I wouldn't say that my tastes are super different from other people who read a lot of literary fiction, but I do read, some less popular titles, some things you might not see all the time on like Book Talk, Booktube. I think, I'm also going to incorporate a lot of like film reviews and things like that into this channel. I kind of see books and movies as two sides of the same coin for me. I'm really passionate about both and spend a lot of my free time both reading books and watching movies, and I think they're both equally important art forms, obviously. Anyway. Question 3, what are you most excited for about this new channel? I think I touched on this a little bit in my first answer, but I'm really excited to, just have an outlet to talk about books and movies to other people online again. I'm also interested in, making new friends, meeting new people, getting new book and film recommendations. I think all of the like standard things that you would probably be excited about making a YouTube channel. Question 4, why do you love reading and watching movies? I think something that I find when I sit down with a book with no distractions, or sit down with a movie and like put the phone away, it can almost be like this meditative experience. I have cat hair in my mouth. But it's almost like this meditative experience. You are focused on nothing but what's in front of you, and you're just able to sit and absorb this piece of art, and it like look into both yourself and also get a better understanding of the human condition and a better understanding for other people when you really just open yourself up to it and free yourself from distractions. And I know that's a very like big answer, but I think that is really what I appreciate most about both reading and watching movies is there is that level of escapism, but I also just love learning about other people, other characters. I love the artistry of it, like a beautifully shot film or a really well-written lush prose. Like I love it all. Question 5, what book got you into reading and what movie got you into film? So I don't know if there's one exact book that got me into reading or one exact movie that really awakened my love for cinema, but you know, I always read as a kid. I read like the Click books, the Cheetah Girls books, those Camp Confidential books, if you've ever read those. Like, and before that, I was deep into Magic Treehouse and things like that. Like, Magic Treehouse was my personal elementary school. Like, I read them all. So I think those really awakened my love for reading and my love for movies. Obviously, I was always watching stuff as a kid. I remember I would sit down in what we called the TV room and constantly have the TV on, which was probably not a great thing. Like, I'm 28 years old. I was a kid in the, like, probably mid 2000s. So it was a different time. Like, I didn't have any screen time limits, but was just watching TV constantly. And then I think around the time that Netflix went streaming fully and I had access to that is when I dove into so much stuff that I wouldn't have watched otherwise. Like I remember watching Dogtooth, if you're familiar with that movie on Netflix, when I was like 14, which, you know, maybe gives you a clue into my taste now, because I was like, oh yeah, this is for me. Okay. But yeah, there are so many moments, I think, especially when you are younger and starting to and haven't read as many books or watched as many movies, just based on age, you know, no judgment there. But when everything's fresh and new, it's so exciting. Everything is so magical. And I feel like the older I get, the more I am trying to capture that feeling, but it becomes more and more fleeting, which is maybe a little bleak. But, you know, I still very much enjoy the books I read and the movies I watch, but I think there's just something very magical about that early time, right? Question 6 is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? This is another one of the questions on this list where I was like, I don't know my answer. I think I would ask if they would like to be friends, if they have any book recommendations, and also this morning I was like, what is the most basic mic that I can get, or like just to like start when I'm filming on my phone. So I think I would ask them, I'd be like, what is your opinion on this? Because oh my gosh, I didn't dive too deep, but I was going through like some Reddit threads and I feel like that was a mistake because people on Reddit, oh my gosh, they just kind of like to hear themselves talk, you know, which obviously me too. I've been yapping for 12 minutes already. So question 7, what challenges do you think will be the hardest to overcome about starting this channel? I think this is an interesting question. So I think there's the obvious about just being a little nervous to put myself out there. But I think even bigger than that is like I mentioned earlier, left TikTok in about 2023, end of 2023, I think. And at the time I had like 40,000 followers, subtle flex. But my relationship with social media just became very jaded. And I think especially my relationship with short form content and the way that I was using and posting on TikTok in particular. And what I mean by that is, like, on TikTok, everything is very instantaneous. So I could have an idea for a TikTok video, and I will preface this by saying I did not put a lot of effort into my TikTok page. I would have an idea for a TikTok video, sit my ass down on the couch, film it holding my phone, post it, and then post it immediately, doom scrolling, checking the comments, checking the likes, did to do over and over and over, and my screen time just got crazy. And I started having this sense of like, almost a sense of being watched, or like you don't know who's watching you, which is very paranoid. But I think there's just this, I don't know necessarily how to articulate this thoughtfully, but there's this sense of TikTok of very black and white thinking. And if you have a level of nuance, it's very easy for people to skew your ideas the wrong way. And I don't know if that's even necessarily what I mean. I think to get to the point, I think I just had this weird sense of paranoia almost by the time I stopped posting on there, and it just wasn't fun for me anymore. But I still really missed the part of talking about my favorite books, talking about my favorite movies, interacting with the friends that I made on that app and my mutuals on there. But I also couldn't both post that kind of content on TikTok and stop myself from doom scrolling. I just couldn't do both. My screen time was absolutely insane. So all of that to say, I am a little bit nervous about going into this YouTube channel and reigniting some of those bad habits and some of those like weird parasocial fears that I had when I was posting on TikTok. But I think why I feel more comfortable coming back on YouTube and, posting on here again is because it takes a lot more effort to make a YouTube video. It requires a lot more thought, and it requires me to actually like sit down, plan what I'm going to post, edit it, post it, versus TikTok. It's like, oh, I see this this annoying video and I'm gonna stitch it and I'm gonna be very hyper negative. That's something else. I think that social media and TikTok in particular made me a much more negative version of myself. And over the past like 2.5 years of not being on there, I have really had to work to undo some of those things, or like even be a much more conscious like social media consumer, because I try not to look at short form anymore. Even to today, it is so easy for me to get sucked into a doom scroll spiral that I'm like, I don't need Instagram Reels, I don't need YouTube Shorts. Not to say that I don't still get sucked into that, but even things like drama videos on YouTube or like content that is just negative, I'm trying to steer clear from, because I think it makes me in turn a more negative person, and makes when it comes to creating content, makes the content that I would create more negative. Anyway, this is a very, very long-winded answer, but I don't know. I think I'm just a little wary of social media these days, but I miss the positive aspects of it, like posting and talking about the things that I enjoy and interacting with other people. So I'm hoping that in my journey with this YouTube channel, I can make sure to have those boundaries and not kind of slip back into old negative habits. That was a long answer, so let's get on to the next question, which is number 8. When did you start reading and watching movies? I think I kind of answered this in one of the previous questions, but honestly, both reading books and watching movies have always been a part of my life to some extent. Like, I was a little kid, and even before I could read, would do the thing where you would pretend to read just because I loved books. My dad was a book collector in his own way. Like, he had a huge amount of books, really instilled that in both me and my sister. Like, if we wanted to buy a book, he would get it for us, things like that. We went to the library all the time. And then movies, again, I kind of talked on that too. I used to sit my ass down in front of the TV day in, day out. I had a tiny little rocking chair, and I would get like this close to the TV. How I still have eyesight, I don't know. How I'm not, like, why I don't need glasses today as an adult, I have no idea. But I think I've just always been a consumer, I'm consuming books, I'm consuming movies, I'm consuming it all. Number 9. Where do you read and watch movies? I will read really anywhere. I would say the most common places for me to read are right behind me on my couch. I also love going to the park and just laying out in the sun and reading a book. And where I watch movies, again, I just got this new TV. I used to have a tiny little 32-inch, and I upgraded to this 55-inch Roku, and buddy, let me tell you, this has been the best upgrade I've ever made. Anyway, but I watch movies at home. I'm also an AMC A-lister, so I do go to the movies quite a bit. One of my goals this year is to see 50 movies in theaters, which I have done before. I fell off fell off of that a little bit last year, but I'm getting back into it. I try to go at least like once a week, and usually it's like double feature time, so I'm at the movies a lot as well. Okay, last question. Question number 10. What kind of books and movies do you like? And I thought that this would be a good opportunity for me to give you a little bit of a like a letterbox top 4, but also my book top 4, because I think that will give you a better idea of my taste overall. But I think in general, the books and movies I like are much less plot driven. That's not necessarily what I care about. What I care about is character, and I love a good character study. I love a weird woman. I love just weirdness in general. I love authors and filmmakers that kind of push the boundary of like what's acceptable, I guess. Like I love John Waters. I love body horror. I love Melissa Broder, which, you know what, let's just get into the favorite book, shall we? So let's rip the band-aid off. One of my favorite books ever is The Pisces by Melissa Broder. And I think that if you also love this book, you and I will get along, because this is a pretty divisive one, but oh my goodness. I love everything I've read by Melissa Broder. I feel like she is someone who just gets it. And I love this book in particular, and books like it where like this is almost a body horror book, you know? In a way, it's so gross, but it gets at something very real about our desire to be loved. Backing up a little bit, this book is about a woman who ends up falling in love with a merman, and, you know, she's very depressed throughout the book. She is just got out of a relationship and is kind of grappling with the feelings that brings up in her. And really, it's Melissa Broder's satirization of the romance novel, and I think it is just brilliant and speaks so well to what it's like to be a person, like to be so honest, to be a woman in love, to be a woman who is dealing with those feelings of longing and isolation. And it almost tackles on like these ideas of wish fulfillment, I guess, that come in romance novels and turns them on their head. Speaking of longing, another one of my favorite books is All the Lovers in the Night by Mieko Kawakami. I love Mieko Kawakami so much. Every book I've read from her, I've given 5 stars. She is just one of my all-time faves, and I think this is my favorite of her books. I'm reading Sisters in Yellow right now, which, you know, it could take the top spot depending on how it ends, but this book follows a proofreader, and it's honestly just a very, I don't want to say relaxed, but there's not a lot going on in this book. It's really just following her through a very depressed and lonely time in her life. And she does meet an older man and kind of has this quasi situationship with him, and how it talks about how that affects her life. And it's really a coming of age novel that's very quiet, very, Mieko Kawakami has a very sparse prose, but it's also so affecting. Like the first page in this book is some of the best writing I think I've ever read. I think about it all the time. And I think Mieko Kawakami writes women in such an interesting way. And a lot of her books deal with both like where women and children stand in society, specifically Japanese society, but I think a lot of that can also translate into, you know, how women in general, even here in America, are kind of positioned in the world. Yeah, I love Mieko Kawakami. Another one of my favorite books is Geek Love by Katherine Dunn. This book follows a family where the parents purposely try to have, I don't know like how to say it, but they will like try to have children with physical or other disformities so that they can be in their freak show. And, you know, that concept alone is very interesting, but I think what Katherine Dunn actually does with that concept is just brilliant. This is a book that tackles so many themes. It is about like organized religion and cults, and again, like what it means to be a woman and what it means to be, you know, just different in general in society. And it tackles motherhood and so much. And all of the characters in this book are so deep and so rich. And I remember reading an interview with Catherine Dunn where she said that it took her a very long time to finish writing this book because she didn't want to leave the characters behind. And that's exactly how I felt reading it. Like, I just wanted to read this book forever. I wanted to stay with those characters for as long as possible because they were so interesting. There are so much about the people in this book that could be explored, and I think Catherine Dunn does a really fantastic job of exploring those characters and going down all of the different like paths that the story could go. And yeah, I love this book. And last but definitely not least in my book top 4 is Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison. When I still had my videos public on this channel, I actually had a review of this book, and I watched it back before, like I watched it back recently. I was watching some of my older videos before while the thought of making a YouTube channel was in my mind, and I think my review of this book was very funny because I was like, yeah, it's really good and it deals with traumatic themes, but that's life, you know? And I think when I was 19 or 18 or 19 when I made that video, that is how I felt. I have always felt so seen by Dorothy Allison's writing. She is a Southern lesbian woman who has dealt with some capital T trauma, and she explores that in her books. But I think what speaks to me the most is not even necessarily how relatable her stories and this story in particular are to me and my experiences as, you know, also a lesbian from the South, but I think it's that it would be so easy to tell the stories that she tells in a way that, you know, kind of poo-poos on the South, right? Like, if you think about the stereotype of the Southern poor person, it's not a very, you know, it's like, oh, you're stupid, you don't know anything. There's no, like, any nuance portrayed to it. But I think Dorothy Allison opens that door to really delve deep into those people and their lives without sugarcoating it, right? Because there is abuse and there is like different types of trauma that occur in the Deep South as a result of being poor sometimes, but that doesn't necessarily excuse it, right? And even the isolation of living in a rural community and not being around, you know, many people that are different from you, I guess. I don't know. I think I'm actually reading her short story collection right now called Trash, and it's just reminding me of what is so special about her work and the way that she writes women in particular. If you couldn't tell, I love me a book about a complicated woman, but the way that she writes books about women and writes her female characters is just delicious. Like, they are so rich and complex, and even when they're mean and evil and make choices that you just can't even stomach, you kind of understand why. And I think there's a decision at the end of this book that is what particularly drove it over the edge for me to being an all-time favorite, because it doesn't wrap up necessarily in the way that you might expect or the way that you might want, but I think it's a way that's very real and you can see where it's coming from. I didn't even tell you what this is about, so very quickly, this book follows a young girl named Bone who, you know, long story short, moves from, I think it's South Carolina, to Florida with her mother, her sister, and her stepfather. And her stepfather is very abusive, and it's kind of just going through that and that experience. And it's no holds barred. Like I said in my first review, it is intense. But it's something that I think I read at the exact time that I needed to read it and has just always stuck with me. Okay, I've been rambling for so long, so I'm gonna try to go pretty quickly through my favorite movies, but first on the list is Gummo by Harmony Korine. Yes, this is my favorite movie of all time. I know it's a little bit of a particular choice, I would say, but I think similar to Bastard Out of Carolina, this movie just resonated with me so much in that it is just like these vignettes of a town in Ohio that's ravaged by a tornado. I think the movie is exaggerated, obviously, but tonally, there's something about it that feels very true and that has always stuck with me. like growing up again in the South, my family didn't have bacon taped to the bathroom wall, but it felt spiritually like they did. And I think there is a deep spiritual truth to this movie that I really appreciate. And I do have mixed feelings about Harmony Korine today, the man that he has become, but I can't deny my love for this movie. And it will always be one of my favorites and will always mean so much to me, because I think this is one of the movies that really inspired my love for film, and even like showed me the different ways that a film could be made. Like, this does not have much of a narrative structure at all. It's just kind of, it's almost like mixed media. And I just love it. Next, we have Ghost World, directed by Terry Swigoff. Again, a movie I watched as a teenager, and I was like, this bitch right here, Enid, that is me. And I still feel that way to this day. My handle on almost all my social media is Buscemi's Girl, because I love Steve Buscemi because of this movie. Even though now, looking at this movie as an adult, I'm like, he is a freaking creep. So this movie follows Enid and her friend Rebecca after they graduate high school, and they're, figuring out what they're doing with the rest of their life. And Enid ends up meeting this guy named Seymour, and they form a friendship, almost relationship-ish, like very, very blurred lines there. And I just love what a complex and rich teenage girl Enid is, because I feel like that is not something that we really get to see very often, The first time I watched this, I think I was like 16, and I just related to Enid so much because she is kind of a bitch to everyone in her life, but you see that it's coming from a place of deep insecurity, and I think a lot of us can feel that, Like, I think teenage me, and even like young 20s me, and even parts of me today, like, we lash out because we're insecure and we're going through things for the first time, and just everything feels like the biggest thing ever, and most of the time it isn't that big, and we need to just like chill out a little bit, My next favorite movie, which unfortunately does not have a Criterion release, so I have this used version from Book Off, is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I mentioned earlier watching movies on Netflix when it went to streaming, and those like really sparking my love of movies outside of like what was mainstream available to me. And this is one of those. Not to say that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a deep cut, because it definitely isn't, but it was at the time, unlike anything I had ever seen. And it is kind of funny to think about like 14, 15-year-old me watching this movie and feeling a deep connection to it, even though I had never been in love. Like, I had never even been close. But I think there's something about this that just really resonated with me, and I don't know why. I think I do find movies about memory and like how our memories of people can change our perception of them in a way, because our memories are not always true. Like, I think of this and After Sun and movies like that are all kind of in conversation with each other. And I think similar to Gummo, this movie definitely does have more of a plot, but it's, again, almost told in, I would say almost told in vignettes, like as we're going through Joel's memories as he's trying to erase Clementine. And I don't know, I just really distinctly remember watching this movie when I was 14, and my cousin was visiting us on vacation, and we were like sitting on the couch. I was watching this in my headphones. It was so late, and I was just crying. And she was like, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, "I don't know." Because I'd never experienced anything that happened in this movie when I was 14, but something about it just really hit me emotionally. And I obviously still cry every time I watch this movie, and it gets even worse the older I get and the more experience with relationships and love and longing and loss that I have in my life as I get older and older. Last movie I'm going to talk about, last movie in my top 4, is Daisies. This is a Czech new wave film that follows these two girls basically eating food, messing with men, and that's about it. But it is such a fun time, such a like anti-authoritarian movie, and it's, again, similar to Gummo, it's like mixed media in the way that it's edited, the way that some of the scenes are. Like, if you enjoy this cover, this is basically what the whole movie is. I think it's so funny to me how deeply political a movie about just two girls fucking around is and was at the time. Like this movie was banned, and which is just crazy. It's just crazy. But this really ignited my appreciation for Czech New Wave, and I definitely want to watch more Czech New Wave films even today. Like they can be kind of hard to track down, you know? But oh my goodness, my cat is chewing on my DVDs. I can't have anything around here, but I think maybe that's my cue to go because I've been yapping for 36 minutes and this is only my first video, so yeah, I'm a freaking talker. I appreciate you for watching this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Like, comment, subscribe. You know, we gotta get those numbers up, baby. We gotta start off strong, okay? I want an army of Buscemi's girlers. I'm just joking, but I do hope that you have a great day. Again, thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you next time. Bye.